Welcome back to Drawing with Abby. My name is Stephanie and
I'm Avi.
And today on this episode, we want to talk about comfort zones.
Right.
So as artists, I know you can get really stuck or pigeonholed in a certain style or certain aspect of art that you love, which nothing wrong with that.
No.
But we want to talk about the benefits of trying different things, how to get out of exploring, and then how that can actually impact you as an artist overall.
Absolutely.
So let's just talk about comfort zones. Jump right into it. What is a comfort zone? And, let's just define it for the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, for me, because this is specifically to like
Artists.
Mm-hmm. A comfort zone is when you find yourself constantly drawing either like the same subject matter, or if you're drawing the same style, the same type of illustration, same poses, you're only drawing faces, for example, or you're only drawing like your favorite character. Those things are comfort zones. And I am the king of comfort zones. Mm-hmm. I tend to draw the same things over and over again. I love drawing in comic book, like American comic book style, even though I'm capable of drawing in like a cartoony style, realistic, or manga style if I wanted to. But I find that I'm constantly going back to that. And I tend to draw the same characters over and over again, and not really exploring my own original characters or exploring different types of characters. So, those are definitely comfort zone things.
Yeah. So how do you know or recognize, or what are some things to look out for when you are stuck? So it's just like...
So I think the big thing is you are incapable of drawing anything else rather than you choose to draw your comfort zone. So what I mean by that is if you are only drawing, I don't know, let's say Pokemon. You love drawing Pokemon. That's your thing. That's your whole fan art community that you're part of, and that's what you like to draw. But you've so dedicated yourself into drawing those type of characters that you're incapable of drawing something else. Maybe you get a commission and someone wants you to draw like their favorite Final Fantasy character, but you just can't because you haven't developed the skills, because you haven't ventured outside of your comfort zone.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about venturing, right?
Yeah.
What are the steps you could take to get out? So you recognize that you only have a certain style, you only like a certain style. Now, let's say, like someone like you, for example, who has the ability to draw manga, anime, but then you stick to American comic book style. You can draw it, but you're not comfortable. So what is the next step from that? Like, how do you expand your horizon to get out of that comfort zone?
Yeah. So there's two parts of that I want to...
Yeah.
So the first part, there is a distinction between drawing in your style versus being locked into a style. So if you've developed and personalized your style, that's great. That's not really your comfort zone. That's just how you express yourself through illustration. So we're not so much talking about that. But in terms of the subject matter, if, again, you're unable to draw anything outside of the stuff that you're comfortable with, that's a problem. So the way to do that is to first recognize that you're...
See, that's where I wanted to harp on that a little bit more. Like, how do you figure that out? Like, what is your thought process in recognizing that? Because,
Well, first, you have to identify what your comfort zone is, right? So this is something that artists don't typically talk about.
Yeah.
And they should.
And I just want to clarify style versus comfort zone, right? Like, I want to distinguish and have like a proper definition so that audience understand how to recognize that.
Right.
It's important because I know for you maybe you do more self-evaluation or you're able to do that, but making that clear distinction before saying, oh, I'm not good at such and such is important.
So you can call yourself a manga artist and you understand the style that you're drawing in with a manga artist, right? It is helpful, incredibly helpful, and you can talk to other, professional manga artists and like read their interviews. and they'll say the same thing, is very helpful to draw in different styles or to learn from different styles or to experiment with different styles. That doesn't mean you need to stop drawing in your chosen style, whether it's the personal style you developed in or chosen genre of style, manga or comic book. So if that's what you find yourself drawing it, that's not a comfort zone, technically. That's just you selected the style that you want to operate in, and that's where you're going to continue to try to develop, right? And that's the key thing. It's the fact that you're going to try to continue to develop in that style, right?
But I think what you're trying to say is, like, going back to the Pokemon example, like, that kind of falls under the manga.
Correct.
However, you're only pigeonholed in that certain...
Right. You can only draw in that certain type of character. You can only draw like a Pikachu or a Squirtle. You can draw like maybe like all 300 Pokemon characters, but someone asks you to draw, again, like Cloud from Final Fantasy, you wouldn't know where to start. Because you've spent so much of your time, you know, focused on drawing these characters, and you find great joy and great comfort in drawing those characters, that you don't really feel incentivized, or you kind of feel afraid to try different things. That to me is when you recognize that you're in a comfort zone, and you're not, it's again not so much about style, it's about the fact that you're limited in your subject matter of what you can draw.
Okay, so clearly define your style versus what you're comfortable with, and then understanding how to expand from there so that you could be comfortable in doing multiple different types of illustrations. Okay, now the question comes of fear, right? So fear, criticism, like, you know, you probably have a style that you're really good at, and people say, oh, Abby, you're amazing at this. And then you try to do another, like, a character, and you know, they're like, is this Abby's work? Like, what is this? So I want to talk about fear in general, how to overcome that, how to, you know, be fearless in that area.
So you're absolutely right. Fear is probably the reason. There's two reasons why people get trapped in their comfort zones. One, and you already brought it up, is the praise you get.
Yeah.
Because you're really good at drawing this thing, so you get a lot of praise for it. So you want to continue drawing that thing so you can get that great feedback loop of like, oh, I'm a good artist because people really like the thing I'm drawing. And then fear develops from that.
Right.
Because then when you're trying to draw something outside of that, there's that fear you're going to be terrible at, or people are going to judge you, or, you know, you might find out you're not as good of an artist that you thought you were. So your sense of identity and like your self-confidence is at stake there, right? So the fear comes from the fact that you've done so well in this area, and to leave it was very scary.
Right. Yeah.
The way to combat that really is the thing about the actual act of, you know, drawing. It's a solitary experience. You're doing it by yourself. You're doing it in the privacy of of your own comfort. So experiment, and you don't have to show anyone.
Yeah.
You don't have to show anyone. And you know what? Like, that's how most students or beginners or whoever develop. You have these sketchbooks full of terrible drawings that they're not going to show. It's only until they get to a certain, you know, level where they feel like, okay, I feel confident about this. I'm going to start sharing it with people.
But as you were talking, kind of remind me of like life in general, you know, always being a student.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Always being a student mindset is applicable in every area of your life, right? And just when you think you know almost everything about one thing, which is great, like, 'cause then that's your own skill set that you've developed, but there's still ways to expand it, maybe open your mind a little bit more. And that's kind of what I want to explore a little bit more with this, like the benefits of trying something different. And you know, you touched on it earlier, saying other artists can attest to this as well, having different skill sets. So let's say you are a visual artist. Is there a benefit in taking a sculpting class or a painting class, right? Like, what are those? I want to talk a little bit more about that and the consistency. So I know I said a lot, but I just want to talk about the other areas of art that you could explore, and then how often should you do it?
I love that you brought up sculpting. So my personal history with that is in high school, the art class I was taking would force each student to try different mediums that they weren't used to. You know, like me and my friends in class, all we wanted to do was draw comic book characters, and they're like, "No, you got to try Renaissance painting or Impressionist paintings, and you got to try all this." And one of the things that they made us do was sculpting, and sculpting blew me away. And it was so much fun because it made me understand shapes in a way that I realized I wasn't getting before. I was kind of just cheating at shapes or hinting at shapes and then really understand shapes until I started sculpting. And I liked it so much that I continued to do it on my own time while into college. Even when I was studying animation, I was still like maybe on the weekends quickly sculpt something with like Sculpty. So being forced into different mediums, I think we talked about this in other episodes. Those are great ways for you to further your education. Maybe you feel like you've stalled and you want to figure out how a way to like break through and achieve
next level.
Experimenting with different mediums, always recommend it. And I would personally recommend sculpting.
Yeah.
But to talk about specifically about comfort zones, it will again expose what you do understand about drawing and what you don't understand, what you do well and what you need to work on. And part of that is the act of getting out of your comfort zone, maybe taking a break from doing the type of illustrations that you do and try something different. But you know, you only get value of that if you have the ability to be self-aware and like analyze like what it is that you're doing.
Right. So what exactly about sculpting helped you with visual arts?
Shapes. Honestly, shapes. Like I would draw, what it was the manipulation of shapes. Because one of the things that you teach you in school is like, here's how you draw a box. Here's to rotate the box, and this is how you shade the box when the lighting's over here or over there. And that's kind of it. Whether if it's box or spear or whatever, the bowl of fruit, that's how they teach shapes. What they don't teach and what you have to kind of master when you start drawing illustrations from your head is the manipulation of shapes. How do I bend that box? How do I stretch that box? When I stretch that box, does it decompress a little bit in the middle and it's like wider at the end? Those things I learned in sculpting. And then I started connecting the dots and I started to realize like shapes were just like static things. They were like stretchy. They had mass. That there was when I was drawing a character, I was mindful of how that shape looked like behind the character. Even though I wasn't drawing it, I was understanding that shape. And that was like a fundamental shift for me, and I saw a huge improvement in how I was drawing.
Okay. Let's talk about other types that you could explore. So give our audience some other examples of art forms that they could go take a class on. So sculpting's one of them.
Life drawing. That's like my number one recommendation. If you can do it, if you have a class in your neighborhood or your community, do it. It's hard. You're gonna suck at it. It's one of those things that you'll have to come to terms with. This is like getting out of your comfort zones to the extreme because you're in a live situation. There's a model in front of you, and you have like 5 minutes to get that sketch down.
So as you're saying this, like I'm like thinking, do people still do this?
Yeah, there's a class not too far away from here that they hold every Tuesday.
Oh, okay. But do young people still do this? Like, why they isn't?
Well, I know it's still a requirement when you want to go to university or call it like an art program.
Yeah.
They'll often ask for life drawing in your portfolio to see that that you've done it and you understand, because that's what they're gonna force you to do once you're there. But I think it's very relevant
Invaluable.
and
Yeah.
very valuable.
Okay. So life drawing, sculpting, painting, perhaps.
Painting for sure. If you want to, it depends on what it is you're trying to learn. So if you want to get maybe color theory is something that you struggle with, watercolor and painting, fantastic. Shading, absolutely. Like trying to understand your values, definitely. Photography is also a great thing.
Right.
If you want to try to understand lighting, photography is fantastic. Or composition and how to compose things. The photography is really well.
So try a couple of different things. And if anything, it gives you knowledge about your craft, right? And
maybe even appreciate what you were doing before even more so, right?
right.
The other thing too, because I know we're saying like this is how you break out of your comfort zone, this is how you get away from your comfort zone. I think it's also important to recognize the value of comfort zones.
Yeah.
Because we've all had this. We're staring down a blank piece of paper and nothing's coming. Or you're trying to draw something really specific and it's not working out and it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And you just want to get up from your and read, right? Yeah. Comfort zones are incredible in those situations.
Yes.
Because they calm you down and they build back up your confidence. So if I was drawing, let's say, a train yard scene.
Yeah.
All this crazy perspective going on and really technical drawing. I'm getting frustrated because I'm not looking the way I want it to look. Just take a break, do a quick doodle in Batman, and I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
You know? And that it reminds me is like, yes, I can draw.
Yeah.
I don't suck. I'm not terrible at this.
Yeah.
This is just really frustrating. And then I can come back to it with, renewed sense of confidence and draw that. Or if, my Instagram feed, which I've done a terrible job of updating, I'm trying, that's like a resolution this year is to get back on that. If, maybe the last post I did that wasn't so well or got like some negative feedback on it, I'm feeling really down about myself. It's okay to go back to your comfort zone, build your confidence back. Comfort zone is great for confidence. What it can often do when it's left unchecked is build false confidence,
limiting,
and then you can build limitations in what you can actually do as
one of the things I'd like to add to what breaking out of your comfort zone is trying to have fun. Not try to put so much pressure and like, oh, I have to learn sculpting, I have to learn painting, I have to learn coloring, all that. Like, it's just, you have to think of it as a little bit more of like what you love, experimenting. And like, you love your craft. Now how could you refine it? Right? And like, just like sharpening your toolkit, you're just looking for ways, but it still should be in a way of fun and play and excitement, right?
I think that's a great point.
Like oftentimes we just think of it all as work, and let's be honest, it's not going to be easy, right? Especially if you're doing like a life drawing for the first time, you're going to feel like crap. Right?
I mean, if you're so used to being really good at
something,
it's a terrible thing, to like all of a sudden like suck at something, right? So that is a hurdle, but it's trust me, guys. Once you go through that and you stick to it, you just not only do you feel better as an artist, the tools, the weapons in your arsenal as an artist is just incredible.
Right, and going back to not sharing it.
You don't have to share your journey.
You don't have to share, but the vulnerability in putting yourself out there and actually learning. So I think at some point you mentioned that you're working on animals, courses. So
please don't make me.
if you do put something out like that, like you're being vulnerable, but it also, people love to see that kind of progression. And that's what I've realized this year. Like, a lot of people are really engaged and invested in learning about the journey. Right. And so if you're trying to build your online platform and your audience, and you're really good at this thing, and you could teach anybody how to do this, and all that, but then you're not great at animals, but you're in like a month or 2 months, you've made dramatic progress, that people would be vested in learning about how you made that progress change, right? So that's something to think about. Like but also, depending on how comfortable you are, put it out there.
Absolutely. I mean, so for me, over the last couple of months, I've switched my main drawing platform. I used to draw in Clip Studio Paint a lot, and I loved it. I was so happy with it. But as I was putting out content for the YouTube channel, what people were really struggling with and really wanted to see a lot more, tutorials and some feedback on was Infinite Painted, which is an app that I do like. It's just I hadn't spent as much time with it, so I kind of had to switch, just so I can get more comfortable with it, get outside of my comfort zone, as we said and we're talking about, and just learn it a bit more. Try to figure out what the limitations are. So that's why, like, I put together that brush set.
Yeah.
Because I was looking for ways to make that application work to create the type of illustrations I wanted to create, right? And then I had to learn how the brush engine worked and really get in depth with that. And I think going through that exercise, whether if I'm drawing in Infinite Painter now, or if I go back to Clip Studio to do an illustration, I feel like I'm a much stronger digital artist because I went through those technical challenges.
Right. Yeah. And you bring up a good point. Like, we talked about these classes, etc. But even from drawing on different platforms, different mediums, different brushes, tools, painting, color, like all of that, pushing yourself to do something different. At least, like for me, I think, if you're, depending on how skilled you are and how developed you are, I think once a week trying something small, different, like a different brush or different kits, to doing a full blown class is important to keep you sharp.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So breaking out of comfort zones are important, and putting that vulnerability aspect of it is important. Showing progress, I think, is valuable for whoever you're sharing that with. When you're comfortable, are you prone to more mistakes?
When you're comfortable?
Yeah.
Not really, because what you're doing at that stage, you're really locked into specific pose. For a longest while, I caught myself just drawing like headshots. So I got really good at drawing faces. So I wouldn't make so many mistakes with that, but only from a certain angle. As soon as I turned that guy, all of a sudden, like all these,
It's all different.
my lack of skill was exposed at that point, right? So the comfort zones, the reason why they're comfort zones is because you excel with them.
Yeah.
Or you feel really confident about them. So you don't really make too many mistakes with that. It's when you step out of it, all of a sudden, the illusion breaks. And then all of a sudden you realize where you stand in terms of your skill as an artist. So then that's when the mistakes start coming up.
Right. Like the different pose or different angle, different body type, shape. And
body type's a huge one. And that's one a lot of artists unconsciously have a comfort zone about. They're not exploring different types of body shapes because the type of stories or illustrations they're doing only have the one type of body shape. So if you ask them to draw, a medium set warrior woman, they wouldn't know how to do that, right? Because they haven't experimented with that. So those are different types of comfort zones that we all have.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit more of technology and how you could utilize that to break out of the comfort zone or even help you like halfway? Like, for example, if you want to draw more anime and manga, can you utilize certain technologies to help you kind of get you halfway there, and then you just have to figure out how to do the eyes?
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of the pose packs that you see online. In fact, I'm working on one myself. Those ones are great because it allows you to explore different angles, different anatomies, different body shapes. So that can help you. It's kind of like a um a low pressure version of life drawing. So you're not like scrambling to try to get the pose down in front of like other people.
Yeah.
So that's a great one. In terms of Clip Studio Paint has this great 3D model tool, so you can pose the character as a 3D model, and then rotate that camera, adjust the lighting, so you can start experimenting with different things that you wouldn't normally do. SketchUp is a 3D tool where you can create different environments and put the camera where you want it, so you can experiment with perspective and different kind of lightscapes. So there's a bunch of different tools.
There's a couple of tools out there. Okay.
So you first need to identify what it is you want to work on, and then there's usually a tool available to help you with that.
Okay. And what's your recommendation on, like, depending on people's comfort zones, collaboration and like working with a community, or, you know, we always touch on this, on having a good tight network of people that give you good criticism.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, having your group of art friends, if you can get that, it's invaluable. So sharing that progress, share that journey, is good.
Yeah.
Because that's a safe space. You know, these people, when they give you a comment, to give you feedback, it isn't to put you down,
Right.
it's to build you up.
Yeah.
Online's a little bit more risky, sharing that journey. Again, you have to know yourself. If you're someone that can't handle criticism very well, or, you know, you see a negative comment and it sticks in your head and you internalize it, then don't do that.
Don't do it.
So you have to know yourself, what your comfort levels are, and then but if you are someone that like can put something out there, see maybe 3 bad, like nasty comments on it, but then pick out like the 5 good ones, then go for it if you're able to handle that.
Right. So having a good support system to help you with that is critical. But and then, you know, I think you as an individual, I made some notes on curiosity. You know, like, you need to spark some curiosity, just like, you know, we talked about having fun. I think this all goes hand in hand. The role of curiosity plays a big part in you developing as an artist. And that's the whole point of this, right? Getting out of your comfort zone so you could become a better artist, and having your goals in mind, right? And that's what we talked about earlier, or in a couple of episodes ago, about becoming a better artist. So, and how to do that. And breaking out of the comfort zone is what we're talking about today, but sparking that curiosity so that you could experiment, have fun, and keeping that goal in mind of becoming that better artist.
Yeah.
And then lastly, this is just a comment, but celebrating the progress. You know, like going out of your comfort zone and doing something different. And that's why I talked about sharing the journey, because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but a lot of times I don't like to share things that I'm doing until it's done.
Yeah.
People usually say that. Don't talk about it. Don't say anything about it until it's done.
Yeah.
But guess what? That gives me an out to not do it. Right?
That's true.
So
you can't be held accountable.
Exactly. So now you could, once you do put it out there, especially with,
you gotta deliver. Like
you're a terrible host. You're of course posting, and you know, you say, okay, this is day 1 of my horse, and then it
might look like a cow, guys. Just putting that out.
Whatever way, at least it's an animal, right? But my point is putting it out there, and you know, like, I get it. It's not an easy thing to do, but it also puts accountability, right? And humanizes you, like, and it depends. Like, if you're like a really extremely professional artist, you don't even need to do that. Don't bother. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But you as a person, you're an individual trying to spark that curiosity, have that excitement, have that goal in mind. share the journey, and that keeps you accountable as well as have fun in the progress.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing with progress is like we as humans, and this is coming back to some of the things we talked about on setting goals, etc. Like when we achieve that goal, we're on to the next thing, right? We don't even take a moment to like celebrate it. I think that is very important. However, which way you do that, with engaging with your online presence, your friends, your family, whoever it is, but taking a moment to be proud of yourself for trying something out of your comfort zone is something you should keep in mind before you start.
Yeah.
So that you could reward yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a really
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, that's all I have today from my question standpoint. Did you have any other comments?
No, I think we covered everything.
We covered it. Yeah. I think, the whole idea of this is to make sure to spark some curiosity, spark some ideas for you to get out of your comfort zone, try different things. At the very least, once a month, whether it's a class or some online thing that you want to do or different program, whatever it is, it will help you refine your craft. And this doesn't only apply to art. This applies probably across the board to all parts of life.
Probably, yeah.
On all areas. But we wanted to make it art specific and just spark your curiosity a little bit more to become a better artist. So until next time,
Keep drawing.